Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Micah over at appletrader.com. I thought I would do a quick little shout out to everybody at Wall Street All-Stars and do a little video about how I analyze the markets because we're kind of at an interesting point here. And it's Tuesday, June 26, 2012. We're pretty much right smack in the middle of summer, and I hope everybody had a great summer solstice. What I want to do today is I want to kind of go over a few of the things that I do and I look at when I'm analyzing the market. And of course, I always start with a top-down look at the market. So right now we're looking at the S&P 500 futures, and we're looking at it over the last year. But what I want to do first is, I want to look at it over the last few years. And this is actually something that Cody posted up yesterday. He posted up this chart of the NASDAQ and the market over the last few years, and it really does help you, and I agree, because it really does help you get a bigger picture of exactly where the market is right now. And, I'm a very visual person, and I like to look at, charts and lines and things like that. I'm a visual person, and today I'm actually going to go over some of the cool little indicators and stuff I use to kind of get a good idea of where the market is. So we're looking at the S&P 500, and the first thing, I'm going to kind of zoom in for a second. The first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change this chart a little bit. And most people use lines or bars or even candlestick charting, when they look at charts or maybe even area chart. What I'm going to do is I'm on Thinkorswim right now by TD Ameritrade, and I'm going to switch to a new chart called the Heikin-Ashi. And as I said before, I'm a very visual person, and this chart just kind of helps me get a better visual representation of trends. And as you can see, it shows trends really well. When it's trending up and down, it's more clear for me. And so now that I have this new kind of chart, I'm going to back it right back up to this, longer term chart, and I'm going to draw a few lines and kind of see if I can gauge a little bit about where the market is in relationship to its past. All right, I'm going to come all the way down here to this point here, and I'm going to take my line and I'm just going to kind of draw it right up, just kind of like that, trying to get an idea of where we are here. And then I'm going to bring it up. So you can see that's pretty interesting, isn't it? The way that, the way that the market rolls and the way that it moves up and down, it's very interesting to me. And now that we have kind of like this bigger picture of this growth that we're seeing over the last few years in the market, okay, I want to do something very interesting here. Check this out. I'm going to highlight this specific area, and what I'm going to do now is come back here to last summer. Last summer we were in this big sideways mode where we didn't really make a lot of progress. And I'm going to take these highs, and I'm just going to kind of draw a line across right around the 1350 area. And you can see that that's also kind of where we're kind of smack in the middle of right now. I'm going to come down here. So this is the area that we went sideways in for 6-7 months or so last summer, okay? And now look where we are. We're right smack in the middle of that same zone, the same little channel area. So really we haven't really made much progress in the markets over the last year. So that's very interesting for me to kind of take note of that, okay? So now that we kind of see that, we can also see that where we are right now in relationship to the bigger picture. I'm going to kind of zoom back in here for a year. Okay, where we are right now in relationship to the bigger picture, we're right smack in the middle of this bigger channel, right? We're right here at 13, a little above 1300, with the highs up in here and the lows are down in here. Okay, so as you can see, the markets are kind of pulling back a little bit right now. So I'm kind of looking for a possible support down in this area in here. But here's the thing. If the markets don't hold this support, I'm looking for it to come down here and do a full rotation to the bottom. Now, I'm not saying that this is an overall target down here. I'm simply saying that, hey, if this support doesn't hold, this is the next one I'm looking at, okay? So now that we kind of have an idea of the S&P 500, let's take a look at the NASDAQ. All right, so again, I want to back this up to a few years. Okay, I want to back this up. Now, the first thing that I hope you see is how much stronger the NASDAQ has been relative to the S&P 500. I'm going to draw these same channel lines coming up. Wow, isn't that interesting that, the markets do these waves? I don't know. I just find it very interesting. And the first thing I can also see is, yeah, the NASDAQ had this same sideways movement for almost the full year of almost all last year. Okay, but what's different is that the NASDAQ is above that point right now, far above it, whereas the S&Ps are still right smack in the middle of it. And you can see this growth that we're seeing in the NASDAQ is much greater than the S&P 500. Okay, so the NASDAQ's outperforming the S&P in a big way. So now that we kind of understand that a little bit more, let's kind of zoom back in and kind of get an idea of where we are right now. Okay, so in the kind of scheme of things over the last few months, we're making these highs, a lower high right here. So we're still making lower highs and we're still making lower lows. Now, whether you consider this area a flip back up to the upside is really going to be trader or investor dependent. Okay, some people would say that, hey, we made a high, we made a higher low and a higher high, so now we're back into an uptrend. So there's some points here where it's really up to the individual. Now, I'm kind of looking at this like, well, in the bigger picture, in this bigger channel, we're still right smack in the middle of it, right smack in the middle. Now, the NASDAQ is outperforming, so I would expect it to continue to do so. When we look at the leaders like, Apple, Priceline, Google, well, Google hasn't been doing that well, but when we look at these big leaders, they've been just totally doing awesome over these last few years. And we could really see that with Apple. And Apple has shown an enormous amount of growth over the last few years. And let's take a quick little peek at that. Okay, you can see here, I still have my channel draw. I'm going to go all the way down here and come all the way back up. Okay, now whereas the NASDAQ is still inside this channel, look, Apple is well above it and had this huge breakout when they announced those monster earnings back in January where they just blew everybody's mind with how much money they were making. Now we had that big move up, but we've kind of slowed down a little bit right now. But before I zoom into this area, I want you to notice something very important here. Look at the way that Apple grows, where it does a big wave up and then it goes sideways for about 6 months and it kind of goes up and down and then does a big wave up and then goes up and down sideways for about 6 months. Big wave up, sideways. We've had a big wave up. So guess what I'm kind of thinking here? I think you can kind of tell where I'm going with this is that I think that we're moving into a sideways mode because that's been the traditional characteristic of this stock. Now you can already see that, well, we kind of are. I mean, over the last few months, when I kind of draw a line across, we haven't really made any progress in 1, 2, 3, 4. So technically, I mean, we've already been going sideways for 4 months here. Now, this kind of sideways action is really good for specific types of strategies. Covered calls, trades where you have positive theta, you're making money over time, and of course, in these periods here, volatility is also dropping, right? We can look at the implied volatility maybe later, but that's a whole nother video. Implied volatility drops in this kind of sideways area. It's a great time to be short options, selling naked puts, selling put spreads, selling bear call spreads, selling covered calls, even butterflies, because we're kind of in this neutral zone here with Apple. Now, what's interesting about Apple is we are coming into earnings. Okay, we've got earnings on the 24th. It's not confirmed, but this is big here, folks. If they confirm earnings for the 24th, it's going to be a few days after July expiration for the options. Now, this is big because what happens is all the contracts, everybody who's trading Apple options doesn't want to hold options for July because it's not going to give them any earnings exposure. So what's going to happen as soon as they confirm this earnings to be after July expiration, we're going to see this huge flood of volume flowing from July to August. So now what that's going to cause is it's going to cause a huge drop in July volatility of the options, and it's going to cause a lift in implied volatility in the August options. And I'm actually going to bring this up really quick because I think it's very interesting. So I'm going to come up here to my little tool thing here. I'm going to bring up the implied volatility and show everybody exactly what I'm talking about here. Now this is the implied volatility for Apple, and we can see that we're at lows. This means that the Apple options are cheap. Now, as of just a couple days ago, we were even lower. You can see we immediately got this little boost in volatility, and I would assert that as we come closer to earnings, this implied volatility is going to get higher and higher and higher, maybe even up to here. You can see what happens right before earnings, where we had earnings here, this big boost in implied volatility, and then after earnings it crashes. So coming into earnings, you kind of want to be long volatility, right? Long options, long calls, long puts, stuff like that. But you want to make sure it's for the right month. You don't want to buy options for the month expiring before the earnings, right? And right after earnings, you're going to see a drop in volatility. And that's just, again, the normal characteristic of this stock. I also have a bunch of other oscillators, but I don't have time to go into all of them right now. I always do a top-down look at the market. I think that's one of the most important ways to do it. You know, S&P, Dow, the Nasdaq, and then you move through the market leaders: Apple, Google, Priceline, CMG, Amazon, some of those, and then I go through the sector analysis. Well, which sectors are outperforming, which sectors are underperforming, which ones are setting up. Hey, and if retail sector is setting up, I'm going to be going into retail and being like, well, which retail stocks are outperforming? And then I kind of do a top-down analysis in that approach. So I hope that helps you in your trading, and I hope you kind of get a good idea of how I do my analysis. And of course, I invite everybody to come over on Apple Trader and check it out. If you have any questions, feel free to ping me. You can actually come right over to Apple Trader and write me a message. This is the Apple Trader activity wall. It's totally free for everybody to come and sign up and hang out and have conversations with other people. I'm posting charts up throughout the day. We got the other Apple Trader team members posting charts up throughout the day, doing a little bit of analysis. This is absolutely free for everybody to come and join in on the conversation. And if you like the kind of trade analysis that I do with my videos, I invite you to join our mastermind live stream that we have twice a week, every Wednesday and every Sunday. Okay, and that's the live stream icon here. It is part of the premium feature of Apple Trader. So it is a premium feature along with some of the other premium features like the Apple analysis page, the swing trader update, and a bunch of other really cool stuff on Apple Trader. And I encourage you to come and check it out. And again, if you have any questions, all you need to do is come to Apple Trader, write me a personal message, ask me questions. I'm always open to help. And I appreciate all the support from Wall Street All-Stars. You guys are awesome. Thanks, Scott, and everybody over there. And on behalf of the entire Apple Trader team, I wish you good trading and good night.